try and bring in as many aspects as possible. I've got at the moment Swara Bhasker, who, as I said, I recorded earlier. And I asked Swara because her film is also releasing shortly. Swara, normally before a film releases, you have jitters about whether the box office will accept it or not. Now, whether it's Brahmastra or your film, it seems the jitters are about whether social media will boycott it. That seems to be the new buzz in Bollywood. How seriously should we take these social media calls to boycott films? And you particularly have been targeted at times.
Sir, you're absolutely bang on that. It seems like suddenly now the new judges who will sit in judgment on films and how they are is this sort of unnamed kind of what I like to call the bring down Bollywood brigade. Who they are, what their agenda is sometimes not necessarily clear. Sometimes they themselves make it very obvious in the kind of things they're saying, the kind of accusations and the hysteria they're trying to whip up around Bollywood. I personally feel that the hype and the noise is more than the real bite. I know that there is this perception that Lal Singh Chaddha and Raksha Bandhan did not do the expected numbers at the box office because of the social media boycott. But I think industry insiders and trade experts will tell you that that's not necessarily entirely true. The numbers don't always kind of add up to that. There was, yes, these trends are nuisance in a perception sensitive industry like Bollywood, but can they turn a film into and cause a crash at the box office returns? I don't think so. I mean, let's remember that we've talked a lot about Raksha Bandhan and Lal Singh Chaddha not performing at the box office. There are 4 Hindi films that were legit hits this year: Gangubai Kathiawadi, Bhool Bhulaiya 2, Jug Jug Jio, and Ek Villain Returns. And both Alia and Karan Johar have for the last 2 years been trolled because of in the aftermath of the Sushant Singh Rajput suicide. They've both of them have been trolled. Their films have been trolled. They were boycott campaigns, and it didn't necessarily work. So I think that the thing with the boycott is that the noise is a lot. Yeah, it's not pleasant. It's not nice for a marketing team or the PR team or the producer of a film to have to deal with this kind of boycott nonsense before the release. But I can tell you that the same thing happened with Veere the Wedding in 2018 with my film, because and it was centered around me and boycotting the film, and the film made more than 100 crores worldwide. It was the highest opening film for the quarter, and it was the highest grossing film for that quarter as well, and it was a super hit. So yeah, I think that we are, the fear is, and the hype and the hysteria is more than the real necessarily the numbers. I don't know that the numbers add up.
But where does this hype and hysteria come from, Swara? Do you believe, as you mentioned, Sushant Singh Rajput's death for a moment there, was that the turning point? Suddenly a number of people felt Bollywood was a terrible place to be in, where there was drug abuse, where people are getting depressed, where there is nepotism. Did that in 2020 change anything and make people like you possibly more vulnerable in a way because you are outspoken?
Well, I think definitely there are 2 things. One, that Sushant Singh Rajput suicide created this kind of crazy hysteria that, and I'm sorry to say this on an electronic media channel, but that I think that the mainstream electronic media kind of picked up in a really irresponsible manner. They whipped up a hysteria around it. They whipped up really irresponsible conspiracy theories around it. We've seen the fallout of that in terms of what happened with Ria, the fact that she went to jail, the kind of demand for mob justice that came around that. That's one aspect of it. And that whole Sushant Singh Rajput suicide thing has become like a bit of a cult. The crazy conspiracies like that kind of circulate on that. So I really don't understand who those people are or what that agenda is. The other thing I'm sorry to say is that there is an agenda as far as targeting Bollywood goes, because Bollywood is an industry that is one of the most popular symbols, the most popular expressions, and the most popular vehicles for India's secularism, for our diversity. It's an industry that has always been secular, not just in terms of the content that we have made for the larger part of our more than 100-year history, for the kind of philosophy that it's put out. It's a film industry that has stood very strongly for the values of our Indian constitution, whether it's the spirit of secularism, whether it's the spirit of fraternity, whether it's the spirit of equality, the kind of stories that you tell. Any love story will always, push the idea that love is greater than societal divide. Love is greater than the divides of caste and class and language and religion. And it's an industry that has a very high representation of our minorities, our linguistic identities, our ethnic identities, our religious identities, our caste identities. Look at the credits of any film to date. You'll find almost every religious, linguistic, ethnic, regional caste identity represented. So the people in this country who don't like India's diversity obviously hate Bollywood, right? And because Bollywood is so popular, if you want to discredit India's diversity, if you want to discredit Indian secularism, if you want to spin conspiracy theories about Indian secularism, your first target has to be the most popular symbol and the most popular vehicle for that secular message.